Second gaff!
Catching big bluefin tuna in Southern California is so exciting, but is there a more efficient way to take these fish on? Today, we're joined by fishing expert Brian Nguyen to discuss the science and mechanics that will help you land these beautiful fish a lot quicker than you ever dreamed possible.
Nguyen, it is so nice to see you, my friend.
Good seeing you, Phil.
Man, I'll tell you what, so many people love your presentations because they help anglers to catch more fish, and that's what this is all about, right?
Yep, that's exactly what we're doing. I'm proud to be a part of this. Maybe something real special here, what you're doing.
Proud to have you here, man. So, you know, during the past 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it's been, these bluefin tuna have been so close to home, and people have had the opportunity to take on a long-range size fish in their own backyard. It's pretty remarkable, right?
It really is. I mean, it's the overall long-range experience in the short-range manner of time. Right?
Yes.
I think the nighttime fishing, it's not new for those of us who fished like the Hurricane Bank, Clipperton, or even the islands when they were open. But certainly it is. It's a newer concept to those who maybe, you know, imagine the guy who's fished half days and 3/4 days for 15, 20 years. He jumps on an overnight looking forward to catching the sea bass and yellow. Not to say that he's not going to be able to these days, but those times were there right in the backside of San Clemente Island.
Right.
And now you kind of have he's into something that he has never experienced yet. The tackle is certainly different. It's a wonderful experience. I mean, we're so blessed to have this in our
Absolutely. It's amazing. However, you did touch upon something, and that's many anglers have never experienced this. So how could they have any idea how to do it right? And you are going to introduce us to something that you've teased to me a little bit, and it just sounds so incredible.
Yeah.
The mechanics and the science of efficiently landing a big fish, and it will make a huge difference in the angler's lives.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. And really, it's not necessarily a how-to, but it's for your consideration.
Yes.
What we're going to show your viewers today. Definitely, I think there's going to be some of those moments where you go, whoa, and kind of didn't really think of that. But it's one of the things about I use the term efficient a lot in a lot of my presentations, and I think that word, just also the word concise too. They always there's always bastardized the definition of those words. But when we talk about efficiency in fighting a fish, it's not a matter of how strong you are.
Correct.
It really comes down to the technique and I like to call it the efficient transfer of power, if you will.
Which is the science.
Which is the science of it. That's the transfer of power from the reel, the drag, to the rod, to the line, and then ultimately where you want it to matter most is at the fish. So that's kind of what I wanted to touch on today. I put up a short 90-second video. Who would have thunk that 90 seconds would have made that much of an impression on folks? Good or bad? I didn't say that. I said an impression on folks.
Right.
I put it up on Instagram. Good. Yeah, but I put it up on my Instagram page, and you guys can follow me at the Cigar Aficionado on Instagram, but I put it up there.
How do you spell aficionado?
Aficionado.
Right.
Aficionado.
Okay, perfect.
But I put that video up there, and it got an awful lot of attention. And I think it was just something that maybe folks, again, for your consideration, maybe a lot of folks haven't considered that, and that's what we're really going to open up the doors to here, so that you do take these things in mind when you are setting your drags, because that's one of those subjects. I mean, you can post about drag setting on a forum all day long, and you will get replies all day long, and there will be various things about how one person can fish 40 pounds of drag and it's a non-issue, but at the end of the day here, it's doing it and doing it efficiently, and those are completely separate different animals.
Yes.
So that's what I wanted to come here today, and when we're talking about this and we're doing this demonstration here, it's really it's as you put it, as the science and mechanics of how to efficiently put this all together.
And when you merge those two things, the science and the mechanics, practically what we're talking about is not being on a fish for 2 hours that you can land in 20 minutes and a big fish.
It's that is it. You mean, it's not a race out there, okay? And I certainly don't want your viewers to think that any anglers such as myself or a crewman or anything like that is going to get the timer on when you're on a big one,
Right?
Because everybody understands, again, what we kind of opened up with, this being something very new. I mean, if a Daiwa Sea Line 40 was the biggest reel you'd ever fished prior to the Bluefin coming along, and now you're using an international 16, a Macaira 20, something like that, it's a big step, right? And there's no timers, as I said. Nobody's going to time you. Nobody's going to give you a hard time. But ultimately what happens is you think about this here, okay? You're on a day-and-a-half trip, and that window of opportunity, it's not very as long as we hope, and it changes almost daily.
Yeah.
I mean, we went from the trip that I was on a couple weeks ago that was really good.
You were on the Cortez.
Now I was on the Cortez, and it was a really good trip.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of seeing that things have tapered off a little bit.
Yeah.
So the window of opportunity, it's not as long as you hope or you think. And if you are drifting, it's one thing to be on anchor and you're set up and ready to go, but with this bluefin tuna fishing, we're drifting and or nighttime fishing anyway. And you want to be able to land these things in a reasonable amount of time to give yourself and other passengers an opportunity to be able to go and search and hunt for a different crop.
100%. And not only that, you might be able to catch 2 fish out of the same drop.
Right.
And even more important, I think, is, if you agree, everyone will tell you, and I'm sure you're one of the guys, the longer you're on them, the more they can go wrong.
Yep,
they can chew through the line. They can...
Right, and I say in a lot of the workshops that I do for fishing clubs, I always tell them that the fish are born and raised in salt water. They don't need to be in it for any longer when you hook them.
Yeah.
Right, so...
I like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And, again, it's not about filling up sacks just for the purpose of filling up a sack or giving out tags. But really, what I say is you want everybody to have the same opportunity as you did. To hook and fight a fish of a lifetime potentially, and if we don't understand the science and the mechanics of everything, well then we may be on this fish for 2 hours or longer than that sometimes, and that for the most part would wipe out any opportunities for anything else. So if you're on a day and a half, that might be it, right?
That's right.
So that's really kind of the basis of what we're going to discuss today, and we're going to show your viewers exactly what we're talking about, and that way they can, as they prepare their equipment for their upcoming trip, they stand a better chance to be able to put as much pressure on these fish, but at the same time, not as much pressure on ourselves.
Right. That sounds great. Let's cut to the chase and
let's
do
do that.
Go ahead.
The first thing on that, I'm going to bring that Instagram, my 90 seconds of fame,
do we need to run that Instagram during the show here? We can
no,
do that.
It's because we're going to do the same thing here.
Okay, perfect.
So that 90-second reel that I put on Instagram that kind of just got that attention, like I said, good or bad, it still got a good amount of attention. I'm going to talk about not the how-to, but setting drags and some considerations. We use the long-range fishermen or the big game fishermen. They will typically, when they talk about drag pressure, they always talk about how many pounds of drag that they're using. And
yes.
Obviously, the best way to figure that out is to use a spring scale. One of the things about setting your drag with a scale is, it's not the end-all, be-all. I mean, I don't look at a deck, if I'm getting help, if a deckhand is standing next to me while I'm fighting a fish, I don't look over to him and say, yeah, don't worry about it. I've got 28 pounds right now, but if he does anything weird, I'm going to go to 29 on him.
Right.
It's not really that. The actual drag setting it's really a reference point. And that's kind of the luxury of utilizing a lever drag reel on bigger fish, is that you have that reference point and you can go forward of that or you can go behind it, but you always have the reference point.
Correct.
So that's really what setting your drag with a scale does anyway. It gives, now certainly knowing that number it's really good to know. But there are 2 ways that a lot. There are 3 ways, and we're going to show them that 3rd way. Actually, is going to be a good thing. We're going to go out, as you said, we're going to go out on the back of a boat here, and we're going to do that. And show them that.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
because it's a whole new, unique way to set your drag. In case somebody's out there and they're thinking, I know how to set my drag, don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because this is something brand new.
I wouldn't say it's brand new, but I would say it's something that, it's one of those things, Phil, like when we're learning how to cast, for example, we're taught the push-pull, right? It's really the left hand. When we're pushing and pulling on a cast, the left hand that generates, the distance.
Right.
Okay, not generates, that's the wrong word, but you get it.
Yeah.
But we're told that over and over and over again. But until we actually understand the science and mechanics of it, will we really get it? I heard something in my full-time career. I went to a class, and the gentleman who was teaching this class, it was one of those like self-motivation classes.
Yeah.
He said, if you say that you know it, and you tell people that you know it, and you don't do it, you don't know it.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
So this is one of those where it's not to say that you don't know it. You might actually already be doing it, but it's certainly something for you, again, for your consideration.
Yes.
So the way we're going to show you the way that I personally set my drags, and I do it off of the reel. And we're gonna show you later what happens to drag, how the rod impacts drag pressure.
Is that why we have no rod here?
That's why we don't have the rod here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
Interesting.
So we're gonna show you the effect or setting drags with a spring scale without the rod and what it is that we're trying to accomplish.
Excellent. Should we go outside and do it now?
No, we can do this one here from here.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask you if your hand strength is good. You're going to want to hold on to this.
Oh, my hand
strength.
I'm an old guy here.
Yeah,
Brian. What are you talking about?
I know. But so you can bring it closer to your body. That'll give you the more efficient.
This is going to be embarrassing.
No, you're good. Okay, so then you'll want to hang on to that. Try to use it with both hands on there because I'm going to pull pretty hard. Okay. So I just want to let you guys know this is a Talica 20, and I've got 28 pounds of drag set at strike on this reel. Okay. So I'm going to start off. We're going to do it We're going to start off real slow, and then I'm going to explain it to you real quick, and then we're going to go a little bit faster on this. Okay.
Gotcha. Perfect.
I always recommend that when you're setting your drag like this on a spring scale, you try to pull. You're going to pull at the same speed, or try to get close to the same speed as that game fish is going to run, because the tuna. Especially these bluefin anyway, a tuna, when they run, a yellowtail, anything, and a game fish, they don't run at this speed. Ready, Phil?
Yeah.
Okay, we got our marker here. Remember, we're at 28 pounds of drag, okay? Here we go. I'm going to pull real gently, okay? Okay. Take a look at where we're at on here. I did tell you that my reel was set for 28.
Yeah, my eyes are bad. Okay. You're going to have to tell everybody.
So we are now we're at 19 pounds.
Really?
Yeah. You want to see that again?
Yeah. Why is that?
Yeah.
We're going to explain that, obviously, right?
Here, I'll show it to you again. If you can pull that marker, that white thing all the way up.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Nice and slow. Okay, where we're at here. Okay, 22.
Wow.
You see that?
Yeah.
So
you're not getting the drag pressure that you think you're getting.
You're not getting the drag pressure you think you're getting. Or that's not the speed that the game fish runs at. See, we would hope that the drag systems, even they've come a long way, the drag materials.
Yeah.
But it's still nowhere near efficient as a semi truck with all kinds of brakes all over the place.
Right.
This reel here basically has one. We have some reels on the marketplace or one side, some have on both sides. But that's what we're the animal that we're dealing with here. So now I'm going to show you at a higher speed. Okay. Now Phil, you're going to have to hold on tight. Right. But go ahead and move that marker up for me.
It might make some good video if you pull me out of my chair.
Yeah. Okay, so just hold tight, okay? So this is trying to get to the same speed as a game fish would run.
Which is going to be fast.
Here we go. Yep, here we go. Where are we? We're at 27. See that? So we're getting close to that 28.
Makes sense. This is awesome.
Right?
Yes.
See that? So as you guys saw, there was no weird jerks or anything like that. It was very smooth.
Steady.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm not I'm not going to be able to replicate the speed of a game fish, but I can get pretty darn close.
Yes.
So I set the reel at 28. we're right here right now at 27.
Yeah.
So now, what factors contribute to this? Well, number one, as we said, the drag systems on here, they're not necessarily as efficient as, say, a semi-truck has.
Right.
Also, take into consideration that line stretch. The stretch in this monofilament does absorb some of the drag pressure as well. So if we pulled on it like that, I had a friend of mine call me and he said, hey, Brian, I bought this reel based on your recommendation, but for some doggone reason, I can only get 24 pounds of drag out of it, and I can't even move the lever. I can't move. It's very impossible. It's very difficult for me to move the lever from free spool up to strike. It's so difficult. Oh. And I says, hey, why don't you bring that thing on by? And so when we set it, when on that slow pull, it was 24, right? You did it at the speed of the game fish. It was like 30 something. And I says, yeah, because the reel wasn't really designed for that per se, without some form of customization, of course. So that's you kind of saw it with your own eyes.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
That was a significant change, you see.
Huge.
If we were to do it by percentage, my wife, she's the mathematician of the family.
Yeah.
But from 27 to 22, that range, we'll probably get a little bit more now that the drags are warmed up. But that's what I wanted to simply show everyone.
Interesting.
Yeah. So now, one of the things about doing it like this is, you're obviously going to have a spring scale that goes up to, say, 50 pounds.
Yes.
And more importantly, please attach that to something sturdy at your house. You don't want the scale to come flying out at you when you're doing it this way. But but if you can take this information, and again, this is really for your consideration, of course, because there's going to be, a lot of questions that come up about this, and there's certain ways that everybody has been setting their drags for quite some time. And certainly, I have also heard the argument that, I don't really set it with the scale. I set it with my hand. Again, the scale is not the end-all, be-all. It just provides you with a clearer reference point as to where you are and where you will be.
Yes.
The science and mechanics of battling a big fish efficiently, one of those ways is, I learned this from Dennis Braid, may he rest in peace.
Yes.
Until Dennis came about, until I went to this one seminar of his, it never really, I never understood how to put it all together to be efficient. There's that magic word again that I keep using, but that reference point that we talk about, it's really when that fish. I always, I think you heard me. You came to one of the workshops that I did, and I say there's only two in a fish fight. There's only two ways that the line is either coming in or it's going out.
Right.
And we try not to stay in neutral. Obviously, there are going to be points in time. Hey, if you've been battling a fish for an hour, you're probably going to want to take a little break, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
But if you just kept that in mind, hey, that line goes in or it's coming out. As we start to get more line in, okay, we can actually now start to bump our drags up a little bit because it's done its job, the drag. The fish has taken its run. It's kind of lost some of its energy, hopefully a lot of its energy, but it's made its run and it's done what it needs to do.
Yes.
And what do the long-range boats like to tell people? Like the fish settles in, right?
Yes.
So once he's done running, you're clearing over, under, and you're doing all that. As you start to get more line in, you want to increase that drag. That reference point that we have, though, if he decides to take off really hard again, you can back off a little bit and you know where you're always at.
Perfect.
And we keep on moving the lever forward, and we try to apply as much pressure. And so when we go out and we talk about the rods, I'll add some more. I'll clarify this even more.
Yes.
So, and then of course, if you have to back off, well, when do you back off? Well, when they're straight up and down, and you think that's when they say the battle begins, right? But a lot of times, the tuna, they always give you one more spirited run to show you what they got left.
Yeah.
And when they're straight up and down, a lot of times, I've always said this, I firmly believe that they give you about a second and a half of warning before they're about to take off. And what they do is that you feel that little jerk on the end of your rod, right? Just that little bit of and here he goes. He's going to try one more time here.
Yep.
At that point, you can start to back off a little bit for sure. but you always have your reference point and you know exactly where you are at.
That is
you
so important.
So we're back and forth on the lever quite a bit, just as much as we are back and forth on the shifter button. And that's for another topic, another day when we talk about the 2-speed shifter. But that lever, we're always back and forth on that. I explained to you why that's really important to apply as much pressure. So you just saw right now. The pulling against it at this, trying to get to the same speed anyway of the game fish.
Yes.
Talk about how much pressure do you actually need to put on a fish, okay? So that fish, when we're pulling on them, as we've been taught for years, right? Put it in our gut and we start to pull on that fish. Think about what's happening here. That fish has stopped running, so now it's time for us to go to work, right? A lot of times that fish is coming at us and it's laying sideways like this. Okay, so whichever side the hook is in him anyway, so he could be flipped around, whatever the case may be. But they're sideways like this. So now, if it's think about a bigger fish, let's just say plus 150.
Yeah.
So he's sideways like this. So when we're pulling on them, our rods, they have they have recoil in them, right? Obviously, the new modern rods, that's kind of the most important thing. So technically, what that means then is that if we held the rod at that 45-degree angle, as the rod bends, it's going to want to straighten itself out.
Yes.
But when it straightens itself out, what that fish does is he comes in like this. See?
Yes.
So now you have to imagine how much pressure you actually need to be able to bring this fish in. If you've got so much working against you.
You're pulling against the water.
You're pulling against the water.
Fish's body is he's using that to his advantage.
He's using everything to his advantage.
Yes.
And so when we talk about the amount of drag pressure, what is required, now you can see. It does take quite a bit of pressure to get these things to move.
Yes.
So now that we kind of understand, you're seeing two different ways here, two different ways of pulling against a drag scale to see that, and that's why I think it's really important to get this aspect of it down.
Yes. Agreed.
I got a lot of replies from crewmen and stuff like that, and this is not to dispute that. Lord knows they've forgotten more about fishing than I will ever know. That's why I don't say that I'm an expert in anything. I'm a good student and I try really hard.
Yes.
And but with that, the question has come up. Well, we'll go ahead and we prefer to set the drags through. We put the reel on a rod and put the line through the guide.
You see that all the time.
And we'll pull on that.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I would like for your viewers to know is that the rod, the actually bending of the rod, it consumes a good portion of the drag pressure that you're putting on. So contrary to popular belief, I was actually told that, well, if you put it through the rod, there's friction and everything like that it would add to the drag pressure. Well, when you and I go out to the back of one of the boats here and we do this, I'm going to show you that the impact that the rod has on drag pressure.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. And do you want to tease what happens, or we'll just go see it?
We'll just go see it because,
but it's really important, right?
It's really important for them to know. And the reason for this is because, again, when we talk about the science and mechanics of it, it does not matter what you say your drag is set at. What matters is how much of that drag that fish feels, what is impacting him, right? So when we put the line through the rods, you'll get a chance to see what the rod does to it. Because take a couple things into consideration. One, the bending of the rod itself, that consumes a good portion of the drag. Okay. Then on top of that, we have the line stretch. So that consumes a chunk of the drag pressure.
Yeah.
So I guess I said I wasn't going to do the teaser, but what you thought was a certain amount of drag pressure that you had on this fish. And we now talk about how the rod consumes some of that drag pressure, and the bending of the rod, and the stretch of the line consumes a bit of that drag pressure. What is it then that's fish coming in at you sideways? What does that mean to him on that end?
Yeah.
So as you can see, it makes sense, right, that the more line you are able to get back in, you start to gradually increase on drag pressure.
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense now.
Right, whereas, I know that the most comfortable position would be at strike, and I think that it was John Klein. I was watching 377 Pounds of Fury, that one with Michael Folks on there.
Former captain of the qualifier 105.
The 105.
Schmidt, great guy.
he said something in that seminar that they filmed. He said, honest to God, it's probably better to have a drag that's a little bit too tight than one that's a little bit too loose.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not suggesting that everybody runs
Button
out and
down.
starts to hammer it out. We'll use one of Rollo's lines. Let's not go stupid tight on them. Right?
Right.
But we still, now that we kind of have an understanding of what it is that is going on, the amount of pressure that we are applying to that fish isn't maybe as much as we think.
thought it was.
And now when we show you through the rod, you're going to see that.
And the result is you're going to land your fish efficiently.
Efficiently.
Is that true?
That's correct.
I love it.
That is correct.
Let's go check it out.
Let's do this.
But before we do,
Yeah.
your real job is advising people about Medicare.
Thank you very much.
And I want to tell you something. First of all, from me, those kind of things I find very daunting tasks. I don't know. I normally take a dart and throw it, and then you came into my life, and you not only made it easy, but I feel like I have got an incredible plan. And I'm in a gym now, which I love, and everything just is flow. I've got appointments are working, everything's working. So why don't you tell everybody out there you're available for that?
Yeah, just as we're talking about the science and mechanics of fighting a fish, there is also, I mean, you do have to take these things into consideration when you are working in the Medicare sector. And that's what I do in my full-time job. I work in the Medicare sector. I actually help people navigate their way through the entire Medicare process, whether they have it currently or about to have it. Or get into their Medicare years anyway. It's definitely something that what the decisions you make now have a significant impact on what happens to you when you do need care, medical care in the future.
Yes.
And so if for anything, I always tell folks, I don't charge a dime for conversation. And I'm happy to answer anybody's questions about this. And I'll give you a real brief story as to why I chose this to be what I specialize in and only. My grandmother was our mom, and she raised all of us since we were young'uns.
Yeah.
And she passed away in 2002.
I'm sorry.
And thank you. And nobody helped her with this. She basically did what most people do, which is just sign up for something because it's something.
That's me.
Better
That's what
than
I would
nothing.
have done.
So, but with that, what happened when she got hurt? She injured herself, and she got hurt, and she was being transferred from one hospital to the next, and all kinds of different things, different delays, and things of that nature, all due to insurance not being 100% dialed in. So I saw that, and that's when I got older. When I left the fishing tackle industry, I said I'm going to have to grow up and get a real job.
Yeah.
This one made the most sense, and this is one that I'm very passionate about, as you can tell. And
Yeah,
I hope
absolutely.
your viewers can tell. But that's what I do. And you guys can, if you want to talk about this or fishing, please visit me on my website. I'm at www.mhlis.com. Pretty easy. There's a big button on there that says Ask Me About Medicare. However, I'm going to change that this season. It'll be Ask Me About Medicare or Talk to Me About Fishing. I love that too.
Perfect. And take it from me, Brian walked me through that process, and I'm so grateful to him because I was lost and I had no idea what to do. And I'm pretty busy with the podcast and everything else, so I just had to find somebody that I've trusted, and Brian was that guy. And now my life is beautiful with Medicare. I've got other guys, people in the fishing industry, have gone to you, and they report back to me and say, wow, this is the best decision I ever made.
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. When we were in the studio, we were talking about the effect that the rod has on the drag pressure. And as I mentioned to you in the studio, the pounds of drag that we have on our reel is not so much as important as to how much drag that fish is feeling on his end. So now, I've been asked, as per that one Instagram video that I posted, people wanted me to put the line through the rod. And I'm going to show you today at various angles on the rod the effect that it has on the drag pressure itself. Ready, Phil?
Yeah, I'm ready, Brian. You want me to get really low here, right?
I want you to get nice and low on
quite
it.
a feat in and of itself.
All right?
Yes.
Okay. So now remember that I have my reel set at 27, 28 pounds of drag at strike. Okay. So we're not going to be doing no jerking or anything like that. It's going to be a real smooth pull.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Okay. Phil, where are we at?
I'm going to let you see since your eyes are better than mine, Brian.
We're at 22 pounds.
Whoa.
And you had it set at what?
And I had it set at 28 pounds of drag.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Okay, 27, 28.
That's a
So
start.
when we look at it, you look at it and you say it's a 5 pound loss, if you will. That may not seem like a lot, but if we did it by percentage, you can do the math. It is a significant percentage that the rod is consumed at that low angle. Okay, so now we're going to switch the angle up a little bit. We're going to go to that 45-degree angle. We're going to show you again how the rod comes into play and how much impact it has on drag pressure.
All right, perfect. Okay. I'm getting down here again.
Yep, we're getting down there again. Sorry, Phil.
No problem, Brian.
All right, we're going to go to that 45-degree angle that we're very used to seeing on a boat. Okay, now 1, 2. Okay.
What do we have, Brian?
We're at 25 pounds.
Okay.
So you see that? See
Yes.
how the change of the angle on the rod actually has an impact on the drag pressure, but we're still not close to where we have this thing originally set. So now I'm going to try one more angle. You're going to just stand there straight ahead.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is you can move back a little bit more.
You got it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull straight without having the rod influence any of this. Okay?
Got it.
If you can reset that marker there for me on that scale.
Got it.
Okay, hold on tight. Here we go. You ready?
Yep.
Watch. Okay, why don't you come on over here? 28 pounds.
Whoa. That gives you the accurate.
There you go.
Wow. That's what that fish is feeling.
Yeah.
Yes, that is so interesting.
The rod, as you guys can see, it has an effect on drag pressure, but it's not maybe what you were thinking. I know a lot of folks think that it has a lot of, it puts on more drag or allows for more drag, when in reality you just saw here. You could say that maybe I'm not pulling at the speed of a game fish, that a game fish is running. That certainly could be the argument. But even then, I pulled at the same speed. I didn't do anything weird. And you got to see it right then and there.
Absolutely, 100%.
How much the rod, the bending of the rod, the stretch in the line has an effect. And ultimately, gang, what it really comes down to is what drag that fish is feeling on his end. And that is critical. And these are good things to know. And again, for your consideration when you are preparing yourself for your upcoming trips. Well, if you're going to be setting your drag and you want the truest rating on this, the way in my opinion, how I do it anyway, is I take it right off of the reel. And just as I showed you inside of the studio,
correct,
I pull off as I try to mimic the speed of the game that game fish is going to be running at, without doing any exaggerated jerking or anything like that, because that could certainly give you a false reading.
Yes.
And then now I take that into consideration when I put it on my rod and I'm fighting a fish. Remember what we talked about inside the studio, where when we're pulling on the fish when he's outside, we're pulling on him and he's coming in sideways on you. And that's where as the fish gets closer to the boat, as you start to gain in line, you want to start to move that lever a little bit forward of strike. I know that's kind of the comfort zone to many.
Yeah.
But by moving it forward just a little bit at a time, but always having, again, that reference point that we talked about being your drag set at strike, knowing what that is anyway, we can always go back to it when needed. But as I mentioned inside the studio, there's two ways that line is going when you're fighting a fish. It's either going out or it's coming in.
Yes.
And so what happens is that every time as you start to gain more line onto your reels, as you start to increase drag, you're kind of sending a message to the fish that says, you want more, you're going to have to earn it on this one here.
Yeah.
So it comes down, when I do my workshops on fish fighting for fishing clubs, I use my acronym CAP, C-A-P, confidence, angles, and posture. What you've seen today is confidence, and you've seen the angles portion of it. Best of luck to you this season.